Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, August the 28th, 2021. It is currently 9:14 a.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from Victory Baptist Church, located right here in Ovalo, Texas. I'm here inside the empty sanctuary on this Saturday morning. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so very much. If you're listening to us live, feel free to use the chat function and you can offer your thoughts and your opinions. If you're not listening to us live, you can always email me at newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. I apologize if I sound a little distracted. The reason I'm a little distracted is because, well, I am distracted. It's not that I just sound distracted. I am distracted because I'm still trying to process this news article that is right here in front of me. I have been looking at it going, what do I do with this? How do I handle this? What can I do with this news article? So I'm going to first, I just want to share the news article in a very just straightforward way so that you know this information. Maybe I can prevent people from actually doing what some people are doing, especially here in the state of Texas. I don't know how widespread this is in other states, but here, at least here in the state of Texas, there are individuals doing this. So I need to just get the information to everyone. And then I'm going to try to take this news article and then try to apply it, obviously, to a theological concept because, well, this is Theology Central, where we make theology central to everything and anything. So I'm going to just give you the news first, make some comments about it, and then we'll transition this over into the world of theology, biblical hermeneutics, and try to use it as an illustration and try to come up with some very important principles. All right. Now, before I even get to the news article, if you've been paying any attention during the entire COVID pandemic, you have seen over and over and over and over that anyone and everyone, not only do they have an opinion about COVID, they in many cases act like they are an expert on pandemics. They will tell you how serious the pandemic is or isn't. Even though they've never gone to medical school, it doesn't matter. Maybe they just graduated from high school. They are now an expert on pandemics. I didn't know if you knew this, but they will tell you. They will give you some, quote of a statistic that they supposedly think that they can fully understand. They'll tell you that the number of deaths that are being reported are not accurate. They'll send you a YouTube video. It's been absolutely crazy just to watch how people will act in the midst of a pandemic. That instead of trying to say, okay, we need to try to get the most factual information, we need to be thoughtful, we need to be truthful, we need to do everything we can to protect others and to protect ourselves. Some of the basic ways you would think in the middle of a pandemic, it's just turned into absolute, complete chaos. Everyone thinks they're an expert. Everyone thinks they know exactly what's going on. And it doesn't matter how wild or crazy the idea or the conspiracy is, someone even in many cases professing Christians, will be out there not only sharing it on social media, in many cases, they're sharing it from behind the pulpit, telling everyone it's not that serious. Don't worry about this. No, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. Not only has it been crazy to watch, it's been disheartening, it's been depressing, it's been discouraging. It's one thing to see the world act a certain way in the middle of a pandemic, but when you see the body of Christ, when you see professing believers to act in ways that are not only not consistent with Christianity, in many cases, it's not even consistent with reality. You just have to sit there and go, what is going on? You talk about a strong delusion. It's gotten so bad and so crazy that at times, I haven't spent a lot of time talking about it because the minute you turn on the microphone and you say anything, you want to fill up your email inbox, just say anything about COVID. Just say anything. And you're going to get people going, no, that's not true. It's all a lie. It's all a hoax. The COVID vaccine injects, nano robots into your body that are activated by 5G that will make you submit to the Antichrist. We even played audio clips of some of that from a Christian podcast. Just absolutely, it's just crazy what people will believe and what people are doing in the midst of a pandemic. And I'm just going to be honest with you. It's beyond sad. And not only beyond sad, it's actually embarrassing. It's beyond, and it's even beyond embarrassing. In fact, I don't even have the words to describe just how tired I have become of the entire thing. And here's the thing that really drives me crazy. People will be out there promoting every crazy theory under the sun. They may be out there denying that COVID is serious. They may be out there denying numbers, misrepresenting numbers. They may be out there putting forth every crazy idea under the sun. But when they actually get COVID and it turns into be a very serious case of COVID, guess where they go? They go to the very doctors, to the very hospital system that they were out there saying things about, that they were discrediting. They were saying that they didn't know what they were talking about, saying that they were lying. They go to them in order to save their life. It's like, hey, the hospitals are not really full. They're hyping this up. This is all a lie. Don't believe any of this. This is like the common flu. This is all made up. All of those things. But when they finally get COVID, and let's say it's a very serious case, and they find themselves not able to breathe, guess where they take off to? They take off to the very medical community that they've been lying about, slandering, gossiping about, misrepresenting. They go run to them. They go run to the ER. And then they're like, basically, now you saved my life. Hey, I've been telling everyone that you're a bunch of liars and you can't be trusted and you don't know. But now, I need you to save my life. I need you to save my wife's life. Now I need you to save my husband's life. And I just have a hard time understanding that. You tell everyone not to listen to the medical people, but then when it all falls apart, those are the very people you run to in order to save your life. It is somewhat just crazy. But I've been watching this. And then this is what's happening in parts of Texas. I don't even know if I can read this headline. This was published on August the 26th, 2021 from the Dallas Morning News. Ivermectin flying off North Texas shelves as a COVID-19 remedy. Ivermectin is flying off the shelves as a remedy for COVID? Ivermectin. Ivermectin. Where have I heard that before? Ivermectin. Let me read a little bit more. See, I'm just trying to show you how I was trying to process the story. When I first said ivermectin is flying off North Texas shelves as a COVID remedy, I'm like, I think ivermectin is used for something, has nothing to do with COVID or even a virus. It has something to do with worms. I'm like, wait, what is going on? So I had to keep reading because I knew something was not right. Ivermectin flying off North Texas shelves as a COVID-19 remedy despite FDA warnings and side effects. So even though the FDA is warning people, they're still running. And when you have to figure out where they're going to get the ivermectin, it should be a sign that something is not right. Here's the story. For the past month or so, store manager has watched new customers trickle into the Irving feed store, all looking for the same thing, ivermectin. Now, wait a minute. Wait. Okay, let me make sure. They're going to the feed store to get ivermectin. Now, it would make sense to go to the feed store to get ivermectin if you're going to use it on your cattle, but they're going to the ivermectin not to get it for their cattle, to get it for themselves as a COVID-19 remedy. what is happening? This is so crazy. Some admit that they plan to take it themselves, but others tell the store manager it is for their animals. Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad that some are going to actually, treat their animals with it like it's, you're supposed to. Either way, the store manager tells customers that he strongly discourages them from taking the medicine. You can tell the difference between someone who has cattle and someone who doesn't, said the store manager. And we're seeing a lot of people right now who don't have cattle, but they're in a feed store buying ivermectin. Animal feed stores around North Texas have similar stories about ivermectin, the anti-parasitic drug commonly used for deworming livestock. Some people have turned to the drug in an effort to prevent or recover from COVID-19, with cases spiking throughout the region. So for some reason, they're running to the feed store, which is used as a dewormer for cattle, and they're taking it to either prevent or to treat themselves from COVID-19. Now, what is going on? What has happened to just, rational, logical thinking? What is going on? Now, I know some of you may email me and say, well, ivermectin can be used for this and this and this. It may be. There are a lot of times a drug can be used for off-label. In other words, the label says it's used for this, and the medical community may start using it for an off-label purpose. That can occur, but you know what? You go to a medical professional to determine that, and to determine if they think that's best for you. Because here's the thing, you can say, well, doctors don't always know everything. Doctors, you can play that game all day, but guess what? When you're in your room going, and you can't breathe, guess where you're going to go? You're going to go to those doctors who you say don't know everything, and you're going to be hoping that you don't end up on a ventilator. That's the thing. You can sit there and malign and say doctors are ridiculous and dumb and idiots and they don't know everything. And you can take your advanced medical knowledge and you can go out there and I guess get a cow dewormer to treat yourself of COVID-19. I mean, that is absolutely insane. Now, let me make it very clear. Everyone has their story where doctors missed something, where doctors didn't do things correctly. Look, I worked in the medical world for 22 years. I saw it many times. It happened to me. One night I was having these horrible, horrible pains. I was like, something is horribly wrong. Something's not right. I go to the emergency room. They tell me I pulled a muscle. And I'm like, I did not pull a muscle. I was woken up in the middle of the night for that. No, absolutely not. I end up going to another ER and they're like, you got to get your gallbladder out like now, okay? You've got to get it out as soon as possible. I didn't pull a muscle. I was having a gallbladder attack. So there are times doctors can miss something. We all know that. Okay, but that's even trained medical doctors can miss things. Either A, they're just not taking you seriously. B, they just don't care. I mean, there's lots of reasons why, or they just make a mistake, which can happen. But people will take those stories and say, okay, they can't figure it out, but here I am. Okay, I have a high school diploma. I have maybe even have a college diploma, but has nothing to do. I have multiple degrees, but none of them have anything to do with. Well, actually, I have one in healthcare management. I have one degree in healthcare management. Okay, but the rest of my degrees have nothing to do with medicine. All right. So even though I have maybe advanced degrees, guess what? I know that I'm not an expert in that particular area of study. So I know that I may have to rely, on those who have more knowledge. I'm not saying that they're always right. Sometimes, I've said it before, I've worked in the medical world. I'm always telling my family this. If you think something is not right, if something doesn't feel right, you may have to go to the doctor 2, 3, 4 times. You may have to bother them and nag them until they take your complaint seriously. Because sometimes doctors can be arrogant. And so, yes, there's those issues that happen. But for crying out loud, if you're going to start taking something completely going against what it's made for, what its label states it's for. You're going to use it for an off-label use. Seek medical advice. Do something. I mean, what? But now, everyone, I guess everyone's a doctor now. Everyone's an expert. Everyone can just treat themselves. Animal feed stores and around North Texas have similar stories about ivermectin, the anti-parasitic drug commonly used for deworming livestock. Some people have turned to the drug in an effort to prevent or recover from COVID-19, with cases spiking throughout the region. Ivermectin has also gained popularity in Latin America, where it can be purchased in pharmacies for just a few dollars. Some conservative media pundits in the U.S. began touting the drug's effectiveness, with word spreading to social media. More than a dozen stores in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And Dallas-Fort Worth, that's about Fort Worth, about 2.5 hours from where I'm currently sitting. So obviously close to the area where I live. So this hits very close to home here. I already sent this message out, this news story out to everyone in my church, because for crying out loud, I would hate, you never know. I mean, as a pastor, you hope that you've done enough to train your people to to think and to pursue truth and to use reason and to use logic, but you just never know. But so here in our local area, more than a dozen stores in the Dallas-Fort Worth area said that they have sold out of the animal medication, with some not knowing when they will receive new shipments. Others said they receive multiple calls each day from people looking for the drug, which comes in paste and injectable forms. At Walden Farm and Ranch Supply, just please note that again, Walden Farm and Ranch Supply in Weatherford, which is about 2 hours from where I'm sitting, just west of Fort Worth, ivermectin has been in short supply the last month. One of the employees says she tries not to ask too many questions, but recently approached a customer purchasing injectable ivermectin. I said, "You're not going to inject that into yourself, are you?" The customer laughed and said, "No, I just shoot it into my coffee." Health authorities are urging people to stop taking ivermectin, and poison control centers report calls related to the drug are soaring. So people decide to treat themselves, and then the next thing you know, they're calling poison control. Why would you call the medical community? Obviously, the medical community are all a bunch of idiots. You're out there treating yourself. Don't call them when it all goes wrong. That's what always. I'm not going to listen to the doctors. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to listen to anybody. And then next thing you know, you can't breathe, and then you're like, "Take me to the hospital. Take me to the hospital." Why? You think that it's all a grand conspiracy? Why are you going to go run to them? Go take some more cow dewormer. Yeah, I can make a joke there about more cowbell. More cow dewormer, please. I need some more. I can't breathe. Take a little bit more cow dewormer. It's so sad that you almost have to try to make a joke about it, because it will just drive you absolutely crazy of what's going on in our country. And the reason a lot of this is happening is because everything became politicized. Everything about COVID became political. Okay, we've got community spread that's out of control. We need to take the following measures. How dare you liberals tell me what to do? Everything has got to be, placed in terms of liberal versus conservative, Republican versus Democrat, socialist versus, someone who holds to the Constitution. Everything has to be now placed in those terms. Health authorities are urging people to stop taking ivermectin. Poison Control Center calls related to the drug are soaring. Marcus Cooper, a spokesman for the Texas Medical Association, said taking unprescribed livestock medication is not the answer to COVID-19. You think? You really think taking an unprescribed livestock medication is not the answer to COVID-19? I mean, whoa. The Texas Medical Association is making some pretty outrageous claims right there. The solution is to get vaccinated and use the mask. No. Shh. Don't say that. You can't. Shh. Listen. You can't tell people to get vaccinated and wear a mask, because that means you are a communist, a socialist, a fascist, a Nazi. You may be the flying monkeys in the Wizard of Oz. You're evil. Somehow you work for the Antichrist. Who knows? You're trying to get people to lose their constitutional rights. Shh, you can't say that. Because that you can't trust that vaccine, but you can trust a cow dewormer. You can trust that. I'm going to just put some dirt in a tube and tell everyone that if they'll mix it with their coffee, that it's 100% effective to curing COVID. And then I'm going to start selling it. I guess I could probably get rich, okay, at this point. So on Twitter, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the United States Food and Drug Administration issued a blunt warning. This is exactly how it reads. You are not a horse. The agency said, you are not a cow. Seriously, y'all stop it. Now they have to put y'all because, you're talking to people in Texas. So you gotta really break it down. You're not a horse. You're not a cow. Seriously, y'all stop it. Last week, the Mississippi State Department of Health issued a similar warning and said that at least 70% of the recent calls to the state's poison control network has been related to ingestion of ivermectin purchased at livestock supply centers. I want you to hear that. 70% of the calls to the poison control center. So if someone else has an actual, they took something by accident, well, they're trying to call the poison control center, but 70% of the calls are for people like, I ingested some ivermectin and now things aren't going very well. You ingested what? Look, why did you ingest ivermectin? Well, I saw it on this news channel and I have seen videos of people on Fox News touting ivermectin. So, yeah, you can take that for whatever it's worth. This month, the Texas Poison Control Network has fielded 55 calls from people related to ivermectin, including 5 calls for children under the age of 6. Now, I wonder how a child under the age of 6 ended up taking ivermectin. I wonder. Let me see. Oh, yeah, because the kid decided, hey, I hear the Delta variant is really impacting children a lot. So I'm going to borrow mom and dad's truck and I'm going to drive to the local feed store and I'm going to walk in and buy me some ivermectin and come back to my room and mix it up and I'm going to ingest. I bet you we can pretty much guarantee that's because of their wonderful parents decided to do that. Last August, the agency received only 2 calls about the drug. So last August, only two calls. Now, why is it increased? Why? I wonder why. I wonder how that happened. Ivermectin can potentially be very, very dangerous, particularly for small children who are exposed, Petty said. In concentrated doses, the drug is meant for large animals like horses and cattle, not people. Ivermectin tablets are prescribed for people in small doses to treat some parasitic worms or in topical formulations for head lice, according to the FDA. But misuse can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, low blood pressure, and allergic reactions. To keep medicine in stock, the Irvin Feed Store is now limiting the amount of ivermectin people can purchase to 1 or 2 boxes, depending on the form. We need to make sure we have some for the animals. We have some for the animals. Hey, guys, we got to make sure the animals get their dewormer. Okay, so can you all back off that? How do you even process this information? So that's one news story. There are plenty of others. Let me see here. I got one right here. This comes from NBC News. All right. Now, I'm going to read this in the way it is. Some of you are going to be offended by this, but I'm just going to read the headline as it is written. Anti-vaxxers. I know a lot of people don't like to be referred to as an anti-vaxxer, but you're either for vaccines or against vaccines. Anti-vaxxers online pivot to moo juice, an animal deworming medicine to treat COVID. Much as the anti-malaria drug, hydroxychloroquine, became an unproven remedy for COVID deniers, ivermectin has emerged in recent weeks as a new false cure. Now, I remember hydroxychloroquine. There's been lots of discussion about hydroxychloroquine, whether it can or cannot work. Again, if you have COVID and you want to try it, talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor. Look and see what they think about the situation. When users visit the telemedicine website, speakwithanmd.com, they are immediately hit with a warning. Due to the overwhelming demand, we are experiencing longer than usual wait times. The demand is for ivermectin, a drug primarily used to deworm animals that has become the latest false cure for COVID-19. And the website, in partnership with the organization America's Frontline Doctors, whose founder stormed the U.S. Capitol on January the 6th, has become well known in the Facebook groups and Reddit communities where anti-vaccine sentiment thrives. And those groups, people trade dosing directions and purchasing advice for ivermectin. Please consider that even if you can get a prescription for ivermectin, the pharmacy may not fill it for 1 to 3 days, claiming they don't have it in stock, which is pure beep. Okay. Something with bull. Okay. A Reddit user wrote in the ivermectin community this month, have some horse paste on hand, the user added, referring to the tube from the tube form that ivermectin meant for horses comes in. So basically now if you go to the store and they don't have it, now the claim is that's all garbage. It's all a conspiracy. They're trying to keep it from you because they want you to die. They want you to die. Well, why did they want you to die? Because I thought COVID wasn't that serious. All right. Remember, we've been told that over and COVID is not that serious. It's not that deadly. There's nothing to worry about. Okay. Well, then why worry about ivermectin? Oh, now it is serious. Now they're trying to kill you because they're keeping it from you. All right. Originally introduced as a veterinarian drug for livestock animals in the late 70s, ivermectin quickly proved useful in combating certain human diseases caused by parasites, discovery that won the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 2015. It comes in pills and paste and versions meant for humans and for animals. Again, it is to treat human diseases caused by parasites. Ivermectin has been called a wonder drug because of its use in treating parasitic diseases, but it has not shown the same result in studies against viruses. The drug was the subject of research into possible use as a COVID treatment, including a promising non-peer-reviewed study that was later determined to be flawed and taken down by the website Research Square, which hosts preprints of research papers. They have not yet been published in academic journals. The groups highlight the challenge public health officials and tech companies face in cracking down on COVID-19 misinformation. Now, again, I want them to study ivermectin. I want them to study it and 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 study it. Hydroxychloroquine, study it, study it, study it, study it. If it can be demonstrated that it's helpful and beneficial for COVID, then by all means, put it in the correct form and the correct dosage and then prescribe it like crazy. Then go to town, prescribe it. I just want the study. I want it to be, monitored and controlled somehow by a medical professional so that you're taking the right thing for the right way and the right dosage. I mean, that's not crazy. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and there's a lot more information here. I'm not reading everything here. But the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a health advisory Thursday warning of a rapid increase in ivermectin prescriptions and reports of severe illnesses by people using ivermectin products. Data from the National Prescription Audit showed a dramatic spike in ivermectin prescription in recent weeks, more than 9 times pre-pandemic levels. Facebook spokesman Aaron Simpson said in an email statement that the company removes any content that attempts to buy, sell, donate, or ask for ivermectin. We also enforce against any account or group that violates our COVID-19 and vaccine policies. So they go in here with everything going on here. And it's a long, okay. In recent weeks, a variety of conservative figures and anti-vaccine activists have embraced the drug. Fox News host Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and Tucker Carlson have all mentioned it. I told you I saw a video of Fox News host promoting ivermectin. It's just crazy. I don't even know what to say. So let me state this again because I know I'm going to get 900 emails. I understand that ivermectin can be used by people for certain things, usually for parasitic diseases, things caused by a parasite. It has not been proven to be beneficial in treating COVID. Now, if you think it is, well, then talk to your doctor about getting the correct dose that you can take. Now, if your doctor looks at you like you're absolutely out of your mind, then I don't know if I would want to go run down to the local feed store and try to figure it out based off, I don't know, Sue sitting in her basement and Abilene, Texas, saying, here's what you need to do. Take a little ivermectin paste, mix it with some dirt, put it in some strawberry jelly, rub it on your biscuit and eat it in the morning, and then you'll all be good to go. I think maybe you want to get your health advice from someone other than that. I think maybe someone sitting at their kitchen table trying to treat your diseases. I don't know. Look, if those people sitting at the kitchen table want to treat diseases, how about they get off? How about they get up from their kitchen table and go enroll in a medical school somewhere? Why don't they go do that? Then they can go enroll in medical school, get a degree in medicine, open up their own practice, and then they can treat people the way they want, hopefully as a licensed medical provider. That's a good idea, right? Maybe, I don't know. But we've lost all concept, all perspective here. But so let me say it again. If you think ivermectin works, if you think hydroxychloroquine works, whatever you think is working based off your information you received in your serious medical research, which usually means Facebook, Reddit, or Instagram, or TikTok, or wherever you're getting your, very detailed medical information from, all those serious, peer-reviewed medical journals. While you're out there, doing that deep research, what you may want to do is, if you think that this will work, is make an appointment with your primary care manager and talk to them about your thoughts and your concerns. That would be a good place to start, wouldn't it? Because guess what? And the reason I say this, look, I know I'm going to have people going, nope, I don't have to do that. But guess what? When it all goes wrong, when it all goes horribly wrong, and you end up with, even if it's not COVID, you end up with anything. You're having a heart attack, you're having a stroke, you can't breathe, you're having internal bleeding. I don't care what's going on. Something's not right. Everything's going wrong. Guess where you're going to run? You're going to run to those very medical professionals that you're now ignoring. You're going to go to the emergency room. You're going to need that emergency room doctor to hopefully give you a proper diagnosis. You may get admitted to the hospital. Then your primary care manager may be called in, and you're going to be relying on those doctors and those nurses. Now, if you're going to go run to them when it all goes bad, why don't you listen to them before it goes bad? Right? The whole situation is just absolutely insane. So there's this just straight up information, ivermectin. That's what's going on. But when I was reading these stories, now I know if I haven't ticked off enough people about ivermectin, I know I've already ticked off enough people about that. I'm really about to tick off a whole lot of people now when I bring that news story over into the world of theology and biblical interpretation. If we go back into church history, we have a very clear line in the sand where a major change occurred. Now, I'm not saying it just happened overnight, but I'm saying for discussion purposes, I'm going to describe it as kind of before and after. All right. Now, I know there was a transition here. A lot was going on. We can get into all of the discussion. But we know that prior to the Protestant Reformation, it was pretty much the general understanding is that the church, and this is obviously the way the Roman Catholics look at things even today, that it was the church who had the responsibility, who had the authority, who had the right to offer a dogmatic interpretation of Scripture. So in other words, if you needed to understand the Bible, you listened to the church. If you needed to understand what a passage meant, you listened to the church. The church had the right, the power, and the authority to offer the interpretation. Now, after the Protestant Reformation, a major shift occurred. Now I don't need to listen to the church. I don't need to listen to the priest. I don't need to listen to the bishop. I don't need to listen to any. No, now it's me and the Bible. Now, Luther would have been trying to argue that the Bible is the final authority. The Bible is the final authority. The Bible is the final authority. So we must turn to the Scriptures to find out what the truth is. In other words, the church doesn't have the final say. The Scriptures stand above the church. The church doesn't stand above the Scriptures. The Scriptures judge the church. The church doesn't judge the Scriptures. Right? Sounds very good. But in the midst of all of that, a major shift occurred. Right? So now the Bible is the final authority. And now basically now the Bible belongs to every person. So every person can pick up a Bible. And then the idea basically came, every person now has the right and the ability and the authority to interpret the scriptures. And slowly but surely that turned into this mindset that, hey, you don't need to know, you don't have to have ever read a book about hermeneutics. You don't have to even know anything about Bible study methods. You don't have to know anything about Greek or Hebrew. You don't need to know any of that. You can just pick up the Bible, read it, understand it, and interpret it. So in a roundabout way, we went from the church being the authority. Now, I know the Protestant Reformation will say the scriptures are the authority, but in a roundabout way, the authority went to every individual. So now every individual picks up the Bible and says, that's what this means. That's what this means. That's what this means. I'm going to claim that promise. And all of a sudden, now you get utter, complete anarchy and theological craziness. Now, I'm not saying we should return back to Rome. I'm saying, though, that at some point we didn't put any, like, I don't know, hey, guys, we got to protect this. We've got to put some curbs here on the road because everyone's going to go off the road and it's going to turn into chaos. There was no way to put any curbs on it. Yes, the Bible is the authority, but ultimately what became the authority is your own interpretation. And everyone can interpret it without any knowledge of anything. I mean, I've talked, how many times, I mean, you've probably argued with Christians. You post anything about scripture on any social media account, you're going to get 50 comments underneath it where people go, no, I don't believe that. Well, I think it means this. Well, I think, and you're like, how about, can you ask, can anyone answer a question? What's your hermeneutical method? What hermeneutical method are you utilizing to draw that conclusion? And people say, I don't even know what hermeneutics is. Okay, they don't know what hermeneutics is. They don't know what hermeneutics are. They've never read a book on hermeneutics. They've never had any teaching, but they're out there, boom, boom, boom. You know, oh, you're going through this problem? Well, here's a verse from Jeremiah that says God knows the plans that he has for you, and he's there to bless you. And you're like, you raise your hand and go, wait a minute. You just gave that promise to someone going through a difficult time? You do realize that passage is for the people coming out of Babylonian captivity. And the person you just gave that to is not coming out of Babylonian captivity. That is a promise for a specific people in a very specific historical setting. Are you sure? But just don't, they'll look at you like you don't know what you're talking about because now everyone is an expert. Everyone is a Bible scholar. Everyone is a theologian. It doesn't matter how long you've gone to school. Doesn't matter how much you've studied. Anyone will argue with you. Anyone will argue with you. I've seen it over and over and over and over. It doesn't matter how much schooling I have. It doesn't matter how long I've been studying the Bible. I'm not saying that I should be the authority. I'm just saying that they will not, in many cases, not even take that into consideration. We'll just say, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. And you're like, okay, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. So how long have you been studying this text? Exactly. So what have you, now I'm not saying that Bible college guarantees correct interpretation. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we have to have some guidelines into how to handle the text. There's a way to rightly divide the word of truth and a wrong way to divide the word of truth. Correct? The whole reason we go to church is to be equipped so we're no longer tossed to and fro with wind of doctrine, with every wind of doctrine. How are we going to do that unless you have people who are equipped and trained to be able to do that? Should they not be given any? Do they have any say-so? Now, the Protestants love to pretend that the pastor has some authority, but we know how long the authority lasts. How long does it last? Oh, the pastor said something I don't like. I'm just going to go find another church. So that means the pastor's authority is only there as long as the people will let them have it. And as soon as they disagree, they'll just leave. They'll either leave, go find another church, or just start their own church. It's theological chaos, and it reminds me of the whole Ivermectin thing. Everyone now is a doctor. Everyone now can prescribe whatever they want. Everyone now can decide what they're going to do, and they don't have to listen to anyone with a medical degree. Doesn't mean anything in 2021. Someone who has studied pandemics their whole life, they're all idiots. They're all dumb. They're all morons. Whatever words you want to use that people will describe. I'm not going to listen to any of them. I'm going to decide what I'm going to do about COVID. I'm going to decide what I'm going to do about masks because I don't believe any of their statistics. I don't believe any of their studies. I don't believe how many people are in hospitals. I don't believe anything. So you just become your own doctor. your own expert in infectious diseases, your own expert. You become the expert and you decide everything. It's the same way in much of Christianity. I don't have to actually spend any time, studying anything. I'm just the expert. I'm the know-it-all now. And you see it all the time. Look, it happens. I can offer an interpretation of almost any text, and I'll get an email saying you're wrong. You're wrong. Don't believe that. You're wrong. You're wrong. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I spent like an entire week working through that passage. Where am I wrong? And in many cases, they can't even really tell you where you're wrong. You're just wrong. Sometimes they'll try to quote some other scriptures that you're like, are those even related? Like, how are you using your cross-references? They can't even explain how they use cross-references. They're like, well, that verse applies here. You're like, how did you make that verse apply here? Like, how did you do that? How did you make that work? Like, and you start asking some basic questions like, okay, so what observational studies did you do? And they're like, they don't even know what you're talking about. Like, it's like, and you start, and they'll say, well, that's what the Greek word means. And you're like, well, no, wait a minute. Okay. But the Greek word also has 3 or 4 other meanings, right? And you start asking some basic questions and you realize very quickly there's no point in arguing with the person because they don't care. They know. Why do they know? Because they know. Because they picked up a Bible. They're an expert. Why are people going to a feed store probably right now this morning going, hey, you got any ivermectin? I need some ivermectin to stop this COVID stuff. What? Because they just figured it out. And guess what? A lot of people today are supposed Bible experts because, they found a video on YouTube. They found a podcast somewhere. Now, I'm by all means, listen to all the Bible teaching you can. But you still have to have there's got to be guidelines on how you handle a text, how you interpret a text, how you take a text apart. You got to have some first you have to have, I've talked about this a million times, you got to have Bible study methods. Bible study methods are 99% observation, not interpretation. You got to do the Bible study method. Therefore, you're studying the text not to interpret it, but to observe it. After you've completed that Bible study method, which is, again, about 99% observation, after all of your observation is done, then and only then can you move to the next step, which is interpretation. And you have your interpretation has to obviously be consistent with your observation. The quality of your interpretation is based off the quality of your observation. After you've done your observation and your interpretation, then and only then can you move to application. And your application has to be consistent with the observation and the interpretation. I mean, this is just like basic rules 101, but you'll just, basically, people think of it this way. There are a lot of people walking around with their Bible and they're just inserting ivermectin into any passage they want. They just insert anything they want, just like some people are ingesting ivermectin into their bodies to treat COVID without any real justification for doing so or without any experts telling you that you should do so. Because you just become your own expert. You become your own doctor. And many people just become their own theologian, their own Bible interpreter, their own Bible, application. They just become the expert. In many cases, they don't even have any they've not even worked through any reference tools or anything. That's not what it says. And you're like, okay, well, and that's why, for the most part, I used to argue with people. Now I'm like, okay, fine. If that's what you think it means, go ahead. You're the expert. I mean, what do I know? I don't know anything. You're right. You know everything. Maybe I should just have you teach. And it's absolutely crazy because it'll be a situation like when you finish a sermon. Like I'll say I'll finish a sermon on Sunday at around 12:15, 12:20 p.m. I'll get in my car. I'll drive home. That's about a 20-minute drive. So somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. By the time I get home, I'll check my email. And guess what? I'll already have emails from someone who's either listened to part of the sermon or maybe they listened to the entire live stream who's already arguing with me. And you want to just ask, well, so how much time did you spend working on this? How much time did you, doesn't matter. I don't need time. You're wrong. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you. And so what you want to say to some of these people is, okay, well, if all the pastors are wrong, then why don't you become a pastor? Why don't you become a theologian? No. I just want to, I don't want to do all of that. I just want to let you know that you're all wrong. You're like, I don't want to go to medical school, but I want to tell all the medical professionals that they're wrong. I don't want to go to seminary and Bible college, but I just want to tell everyone that in Bible college and seminary that they're all wrong. Okay. I don't want to actually dedicate any serious time to daily Bible study, but I'm going to tell the person who is invested in daily Bible study that they're wrong. It's the same craziness. So I had to share these news stories. I just had to share these news stories. So here's what I would tell you. Let me go through this as clearly as I can this morning. Ivermectin, by all means. If you believe that it will work for COVID, talk to a medical professional. Please at least get prescribed the tablets that are usually used for people to treat parasitic diseases, right? Please get it in a form that is made for people, not for horses, not for cows. And then work with your medical professional to try to use it for that if that's what you think it's for. All right. Because again, why you say, well, they may not work with me. They may not. But you know what? They're going to be the people you need if it all goes horribly wrong. Let's say you have some horrible reaction to ivermectin. Where are you going to go? You're going to call Susie, who you watched her YouTube video to fix you? You're going to do a teleconference, telemedicine with Susie, who gave you the YouTube video that told you to take ivermectin, and now something's gone horribly wrong. You're having some kind of serious reaction. No, you know where you're going to go. You're going to run to the emergency room. You're going to run to the very doctors. You decided to listen to Susie over those medical professionals, but when it all goes wrong, you're running back to the medical professionals. So please talk to a medical professional about what's going on. Do your yearly physical. Get your blood work drawn on a yearly basis. Seek medical help. Seek medical guidance. All right, that's a simple answer, right? That's simple, I think. Yes? Maybe? Okay. Then, when it comes to the Word of God, let's try, to the best of our ability. I almost started coughing right there. Let's try. I was like in the middle of a cough and speaking. I don't have COVID. Okay. So you cough in 2021. Everyone is worried. All right. So I would just challenge you when it comes to the Bible, please have some understanding of how to handle the text of Scripture, some basic rules of Bible study, using Bible study methods, basic understanding of hermeneutics, so that we rightly divide the word of truth. I'm not saying, but listen, by all means, I am not saying that you have to surrender your right to interpret the Bible to the so-called experts. But that means if you're not going to listen to the so-called experts, then by all means, you work to become that expert. You study and 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 study, so that when you get ready to say, I'm going to dismiss you and I'm not going to listen, you have some basis for doing so. Now, yes, I know sadly there are a lot of pastors standing behind pulpits that they themselves don't come across as much as an expert in how to handle the text of Scripture, which is very frustrating to anyone and everyone. All I'm saying is, whatever you do, you have a responsibility to know how to handle the text of Scripture. Right? I mean, within the Protestant world, if you think about it, the Protestant world really sets up. And I don't think many people who reject Catholicism and their system where you basically give into the church, I don't think many people within the non-Catholic world understand that because we're in the non-Catholic world, we are accepting a great deal of responsibility upon ourselves. And I don't think a lot of Christians really want that responsibility, and they shrug off that responsibility. Let me explain. If the church cannot give the authoritative interpretation of Scripture, and Scripture is the ultimate authority, therefore it's your responsibility as an individual to not only be constantly reading and studying the Bible, so therefore you can understand it correctly and you're not misguided or misled. Well, then guess what? Not only must you be dedicating yourself to constant study, you must also dedicate yourself to constant study in how to interpret the Bible and how to study the Bible. Look, if you don't want to listen to the church and you want to say, well, the Bible's the final authority and I have to be the one to understand it so that I can check what's being preached in my church. Well, if you're going to say that, then you got to demonstrate that by how you live, that you're studying the Bible all the time. You've got to become an expert in it. You say, well, I can't really become an expert in that because I have a job. Well, I understand that. You got your job and you want to be hopefully proficient and an expert in your job. But now that you're a Christian, you're claiming that you can interpret the Bible and that you have to check what preachers say. Okay, well, if you're going to be the one checking what preachers say, that you're going to have a level of expertise. So you've got to develop that through learning hermeneutics. And again, I'm separating hermeneutics as a science of biblical interpretation and Bible study as I believe is a science of biblical observation. So I always separate that. Bible study method is observation, hermeneutics is biblical interpretation, and then you have application. I separate those three as three distinct things. Because a lot of people, when they do Bible study, they jump right to the interpretation. I'm like, no. It's observation first, then interpretation, then application. All right, just some thoughts this morning. It'll be interesting to look. If you want to argue with me about ivermectin, I guess you can email me. I'm not going to engage in the debate. You do what I'm telling you what not to do. Don't take it unless you're prescribed by a medical professional and you have some medical oversight for people to make sure that if it goes wrong, those are the people you're going to be running to. So don't take it. But if you want to argue with me, fine. I do understand that it has been used for off-label uses, but those are done so prescribed by a medical professional. I don't know how else I can explain that to you, all right? So if you want to use it for your horses, in fact, when I was driving here this morning, I saw all kinds of horses all over the place, right out here next to the church. All white horses this morning. There was a bunch of them. I saw some cattle, some longhorn cattle right there. In fact, I slowed down and rolled my window down and said, hey, good morning. Right? You think I'm joking. No, I do that all the time when I see the cows out there or the steers I'm not an expert in cattle. But, yes, if you need to get it for your animals, by all means, use it as the directions state. Use it on your cows, your animals, your horses to deworm them. All right, to treat parasitic diseases. If you have head lice or you have some parasitic, disease that you're dealing with, then by all means, you're going to turn to that type of medication. But again, do so under the care of a medical professional. That's all I'm asking. All right, that's all I'm asking. Now, I know someone's going to email me and say, but there have been very negative reactions to the vaccine. That's always going to happen. There's always going to be some level of that. Trust me, I know. All right. My life was utterly changed forever because of a vaccine. All right. I'm saying that obviously if you've had a negative reaction to a vaccine, you may not be able to get the COVID vaccine, just like I'm not able to get the COVID vaccine because of what happened to me in the past. I understand. All I'm saying is, seek out well-informed, well-researched medical information, and I would say follow your doctor's directions, and here's the reason why. When it all goes wrong, the doctors are the ones you're going to run to in order to save your life. I have seen report after report of there was a radio talk show host who was anti-vaccine, COVID is all not a big deal. He just died. Well, guess where he went when it all went wrong? He went to the hospital. I've seen there was another individual. He's a part of an anti-masking group, I think here in Texas. He just died of COVID. Where did he run to when it all went wrong? He ran to the hospital. While he was out there yelling and screaming, don't mask, don't get the vaccine, don't listen to the hospitals. This is all hype. This is all being exaggerated. When they got COVID and they almost started dying, they ran to the very medical professionals they would not listen to. That's the point I have to make in regards to ivermectin. Therefore, seek medical advice because you're going to seek that medical help if it all goes wrong. There you go. Is that unreasonable? Someone's going to say that it's unreasonable. And when it comes to the scriptures, don't just be running around out there just twisting and making the Bible say whatever you want it to say. Actually learn how to handle the scriptures correctly. All right, there you go. You can email me your thoughts this morning, newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. All right, everyone have a great day. God bless.